The start to the age of gossip and hell.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fuck me in the ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new episode of David Fincher Month. And this episode, this is going to be the review for 2010's The Social Network. Pretty much one of the few non-crime thriller films that David Fincher had directed. The first to not be the second to not be a crime thriller. Yeah, it's one of the few that's not in that genre. This is technically a film about how Facebook had begun. But what is the plot of Social Network? Well, from the fall of 2003, Harvard undergrad computer programming genius and now the owner of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, sits down at his computer and heatedly begins working on this new idea. In a fury of blogging and programming about a breakup that he brought on himself, what pretty much begins as storm becomes this global social network and a revolution in communication. And then, a mere 6 years and 500 million friends later, Mark Zuckerberg became the youngest billionaire in history. But success leads to personal and legal complications. This is pretty much about the legal complications he kind of went through. And also 2 lawsuits. One from 2 twins that say he stole their website, and from his own friend, Eduardo, where after he dropped his employment to 3%. How was this made? Well, production began when Sorkin signed to write it, and filming began that same year in October in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and lasted right until November. And scenes were shot in California, from Los Angeles to Pasadena. And when it comes to the score, 9 Inch Nails, Trent Reznor, and Atticus Ross had composed the film's score that got released on September 28, 2010. Then, after The Social Network was officially shot and marketed, the film would go into premiere at the New York Film Festival on September 24th, 2010, and would go into be released theatrically in the United States on October 1st, 2010 by Sony Pictures Releasing. When it was released, the film was widely acclaimed by critics, which is pretty normal for David Fincher movies, and was a major critical and commercial success. It grossed $224 million worldwide on a $40 million budget. And 78 critics had named it one of the best films of 2010, and 22 critics named it the best film of 2010. It was shown, and then a National Board Review chose it for the best film of 2010. And it got 8 nominations to the Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Eisenberg. It won for Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Score, and Best Film Editing. Also, at the Golden Globes, it got Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Original Score. And ever since its release, The Social Network has gotten a strong reputation and is often ranked by critics as one of the best films of the 2010s and the 21st century. Sorkin's screenplay was ranked by the Writers Guild of America the 3rd greatest of the 21st century. But the accuracy, though, it does get kind of contested with people, though. But yeah, so, as for my reaction, well, The Social Network, guys, that's kind of the first film from David Fincher I saw. Yeah, ironically that. When it comes to how I would rank The Social Network among David Fincher movies, I'd say I'd have to rank it his 4th best. And it's also easily the best performances of both Justin Timberlake and Jesse Eisenberg of their careers. As much as this is about Mark Zuckerberg, one of the most hated people in the world, who even I don't like this guy either. At all. It's still a great film, released to start off back then started off the 2010s decade. It's definitely nice to see a film about how one of the internet's biggest social media platforms today launched. Like, I first saw this film when I had first gotten Facebook. And it's definitely nice to see how this all started. One of the most controversial social media things that all started, in a way. Pretty much one the whole world is now familiar with today. And the film is very beautiful, and it's very Fincher-like. It has that attractive appeal, it's got the glimmering awfulness, and it's lit from within. David Fincher really does nail for a non-crime thriller movie. It was nice to see him explore a different kind of genre in his career. Most of the time before directing this, he was... Curious Case of Benjamin Button's not a crime thriller. Before Benjamin Button, he had directed a lot of crime. Most of his movies were all crime thrillers, or mystery thrillers. There was either Seven, or Fight Club, or The Game, or Panic Room, or Zodiac. This and Benjamin Button were the first two times he explored a different kind of genre. Anyway, this is one of the more youth-aimed films he's done. The actors do an amazing job here. Jesse Eisenberg actually did really great playing Mark Zuckerberg. And this was the film that really established him as a serious actor. Andrew Garfield also easily does great as the co-founder of Facebook and Dwaro, and the former best friend of Zuckerberg. And I wish he got Oscar nominated for this film. I really wish he did, because I think easily this is probably the best performance of his career. And the rest of the cast did a pretty fine job too. And the score for this movie is very sensational. Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails really did great. Their partnership with Atticus Ross and their collaborations with David Fincher, they did really great here. And every minor note really resonates perfectly throughout the film and increases texture with an excellent piece of work. And Sorkin's razor-sharp screenplay is really something that directors should try achieving. And the dialogue falters, but it's always witty, and it's also kind of hilarious at times too. And the atmosphere that Fincher created for this movie is very stunning. Yet the huge credit really goes to Jeff Cronenweth easily, and him and Fincher's partnership on this movie and perfect understanding of each other's work was definitely how this film ended up becoming one of the best films of the 2010s. Right here. Now, how does The Social Network start? Well, we start off on the night of October 28th, 2003, where we meet Mark Zuckerberg, who's dumped by his girlfriend, played by a minor role Rudy Mara, who, before this movie released, Rudy Mara had starred in the shitty Nightmare on Elm Street remake, but to be fair, that is not her fault at all. Even she actually hates that film and regretted starring in that film, so I don't blame her performance at all. Even she did not want to be in that movie at all. This movie, after that remake, this film put her career on a much better path. Pretty much she was about to consider retiring from acting because of how bad the Elm Street remake was, but David Fincher pretty much saved her career with both this and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo even got her nominated for an Oscar. So, and honestly, she's only 2 or 3 scenes, but she actually does a great performance in this minor bit. So, she dumps Mark Zuckerberg, and reasonably, because Mark Zuckerberg is literally being very rude on their date and saying some very rude stuff. Jesse Eisenberg plays the character very well, but this character is quite a prick. So, Mark Zuckerberg goes back to his dorm, and he writes this insulting post about Erica for no good reason whatsoever on his own blog. And then he creates a campus website called Face Mash by hacking download photos of female students from house Facebooks and allows site visitors to rate their attractiveness. And then, of course, pretty much everybody at the university sees this. Some students come in, they bully Erica with this bra size because her bra size gets compared. And then traffic crashes. and parts of Harvard's computer network. And so after that, Mark Zuckerberg is sentenced to academic probation for 6 months. And then even in his computer class, like female students are pissed off with him. They pass this note saying you dick, and so that prompts him to have to pretty much withdraw from class pretty much. After that, because even the students don't want him there. After his post. And then you know how where the rest of the film is going from there. The movie kind of cuts back and forth between two lawsuits, whether it's from the two twins or whether it's from Eduardo's lawsuit throughout the movie. But the fast-paced dialogue with the soundtrack gives you this rush and it really leaves you. It doesn't really keep up or rather drag into the storyline. The rush or thrill from the fast-paced dialogue really pulls you into the aura of Mark. The screenplay is well structured and moves along nicely with the characters and the character development. And the friendship between Eduardo Saverin and Mark Zuckerberg and is actually quite good. And even especially with how it leads to them severing their friendship, and whether it's either greed or more envy or jealousy that better leads to Mark's betrayal. The social standards that really do kind of hold a lot of people back. And two things really drive it as well, the legal actions from the creation of Facebook and the actual gestation. The other is the interactions between the main characters involved, whether it's Mark and his partner, or the guy that they have to form their partnership with, Sean Parker, or the two twins, Cameron and Tyler. And both are actually pretty well written by David Fincher. David Fincher actually does good with handling these real life characters. Fincher shows he's not just some one-trick director, and this movie proved he could explore other genres effortlessly. The sense of tone atmosphere is not really lost, and here, you don't see much of the grungy, dirty look of his earlier stuff. He still has a sense of style and place throughout the film. But here, and one of the social network's greatest strengths is its use of the nonlinear storytelling by editing and stuff. The film comes together for the use of nonlinear editing and not without being too disjointed or confusing. And how Fincher and Sorkin really work together, they created this cohesive whole. And the way Sorkin plays it is really something that's very impressive. And the way Fincher comments Sorkin's vigorous script is very poetic. And the editing back and forth, for different time periods, and without characters say similar things to one another. And so, after 6 months academic probation gets given to Mark, Face Smash's popularity attracts the attention of Cameron and Tyler, and their business partner, David Narada, who this actor would actually ironically go on to play the more discount John Kramer and Spiral from the Book of Saw. That's kind of ironic. This guy would go on to play a different kind of Jigsaw in one of the Saw movies. So, but the trio invites Zuckerberg to work on Harvard Connection, a social network exclusive to Harvard students and pretty much kind of aimed at dating. And then Zuckerberg approaches Eduardo Saverin with an idea for what was originally Facebook was called The Facebook. Which we all knew now is a social networking website that would be kind of exclusive. First would just be exclusive to Ivy League students. And Saverin provides $1,000 in seed funding, and Zuckerberg is able to build the website. The website becomes popular, but the twins learn of the Facebook, and they're immediately furious and think Mark Zuckerberg stole their idea, and misleading them by stalling development on the Harvard Connection website. But so, they tried giving this complaint to Harvard president, but he's dismissive and sees no value in action on the Facebook or Zuckerberg, so that plan's a bust. Then Eduardo Saverin and Mark Zuckerberg, they meet Christy Lee, who asks them to Facebook her, and that impresses them, and the Facebook then starts to grow more and more popularity. Then Zuckerberg realizes he has to expand the network, so he expands it to Columbia and Stanford. And Lee is now dating Saverin and arranges for him and Zuckerberg to meet the Napster co-founder Sean Parker, who while sleeping with this other girl, he ends up finding this girl using the site and decides he needs to find Mark Zuckerberg. So he meets up with them after Lee arranges their meeting. He presents this billion-dollar vision for the company. Mark Zuckerberg really likes the idea. But Eduardo does not trust Sean Parker, and dismisses him as a little paranoid and delusional. But just like the one idea he gives them to remove the and just call it Facebook so Facebook can be more popular. The social network's influence like really sleeps through on not just films but kind of through pop culture and more knowledge of the kind of bad person Mark Zuckerberg is. Mark like Mark has really depicted the film to have inaccurate, but I kind of don't really disagree. I kind of disagree with that because this movie's not really supposed to be a documentary. Like, biography films are not supposed to be documentaries at all. They're supposed to be fictional portrayals of events. Sure, there are some inaccurate biographies that aren't good, but not every biography film needs to be accurate. You know what I'm saying? Like, Facebook really plays this relative backseat in proceedings, and Sorkin is very aware that placing the website front and center would easily be a pretty interesting concept, but however, though, the website's creator, Mark Zuckerberg, is kind of the focus of attention of the film. Now, when it comes to the other performances of the movie, Eisenberg is not the only great performance of the film. Justin Timberlake, who, I will admit, not too big of a fan of him acting-wise, but thought he was also great as Sean Parker in this film. I think easily probably the best. This is probably the best performance he has done too. Easily, I'm usually not a big fan of like acting wise. More, kind of prefer more music wise, in a sense. And although Garfield and Eisenberg do give the better performances, though, like the way the opening scene at the pub where Mark Zuckerberg gets dumped, it kind of starts off as this Tarantino type like restaurant scene with both Eisenberg and Mara. And then it sets the tone for the Zuckerberg character, lets the audience know that they're in for this very fascinating ride. And like one of the great successes of the film is to cause one to ponder what kind of impact like social network ended up having on our society. It's definitely changed the way people interact with one another, and it's actually pretty well done and powerful. So, Sean Parker advises Mark Zuckerberg to relocate the company to Palo Alto, so he does that. Eduardo, though, remains in New York to work on business development. And eventually, Lee turns out to be a not very pleasant girlfriend. So, Sovereign pretty much ends up going back to the company and breaking up with Lee, and then Parker then moves into the house that Zuckerberg is using as his base of operations, and becomes involved with the company. But Eduardo, who does not like Sean Parker, is very annoyed at that. So then we get back to the Winklevoss twins who narrowly lose this race at the Henley Rail Regatta, and this is a pretty well scored bit right here. Like you have that dun 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 theme playing in the background as they're racing, and how like the camera work gets more and more fast as like they're getting to the finish line, and the score gets kind of like more louder and louder as they get there. Like it's a pretty well shot moment right here. It's kind of a nice thing to put in the whole scene of the movie. And so after they lose the race, they discover Facebook got expanded to Europe with Oxford, Cambridge, and LSE, and they decide because everything they've tried has not worked at all, everything they've tried has failed, they've tried getting Mark suspended, they've tried to complain to the dean, none of those attempts will work, so they decide that they're going to sue the company for property theft. Then, later on, Eduardo objects to pretty much Parker making business decisions for Facebook, and he freezes the company's bank account. But then he relents when Zuckerberg reveals that they pretty much secured $500,000 from investor Peter Thiel. And yeah, like this is actually a movie that does well in presenting real life events. The social network really makes the world revolving around Mark Zuckerberg and his executives feel very real and authentic. The ability to craft a narrative really makes the audience even actually kind of in a way does sympathize with the characters. Is Zuckerberg worth sympathizing with in real life? No, definitely not. But this movie version of him, like Eisenberg does give a great performance as the character. Sorkin must have probably been worried that the characters wouldn't really sound real, but Sorkin knew that everyone would have their own speech pattern, and of course, Sorkin really makes these characters sound very intelligent. And honestly, do people need Facebook to watch the movie? Well, no. You don't really have to care about it. You don't even have to like Facebook just to like this movie. Like, it's not a movie for people with Facebook. it's not necessarily about Facebook. It's about how Facebook started, but Facebook's not really the main focus of the movie. It's mostly about the people who created Facebook. And basing it around the people really makes it a film about real relationships and not screen-to-screen ones. And also, like, because it's non-linear, I mean, it's in, like, it focuses on the two different legal battles, one with the Winklevoss twins and one with Eduardo, and it's just back and forth to, like, all the flashbacks as to how those events all folded out without losing a single bit. And also telling the origin story of Facebook at the same time. Like, The Social Network does seem like a throwback to films from, like, either the 60s or the 70s, like, kind of about, like, what's happening in the current day, and it does have a viewpoint. In a way, like, the same way, like, most of those era films were provocative films, The Social Network kind of, in a way, is. Like, it raises questions about who's good, what's right, and the complex drama about the whole founding of this social media platform that we're all familiar with today, and the claims over who deserved credit for the invention, it really does live up to the hype. The Social Network, it's pretty smart, it's well acted, and it raises questions that are really timeless and totally of the moment. So now we get on to how the film finale goes, where after we cut back and forth between the lawsuits, we then see the scene what led to Eduardo's lawsuit kicking off. So, Eduardo travels to the company's new headquarters on the pretense of attending a business meeting. And of course, this million user party, because Facebook is about to hit 1 million users. Eduardo then ends up seeing that his employment diluted from 34% to only 3%, so Eduardo's lost all his money. And Andrew Garfield does well in this scene, being very enraged here. You really can kind of feel a little sorry for the character, and you can really see why he's so upset. And how betrayed he feels. He's enraged when he discovers this right there, and he got removed from the masthead as co-founder. He angrily confronts Zuckerberg and Parker, and Sean Parker acts very nasty towards him and has him ejected from the building there. And Eduardo really then makes this little threat to Zuckerberg: "I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for all of it." There, and of course, then he leaves the building, and then Parker also does this douchey move. "Here's your check for $19,000, but don't use it. I already cashed it on the account you froze." And he does this and Eduardo does this threatening pose on Parker, which is very satisfying to see Parker actually flinch after what a prick he's been to Eduardo, right there. And he's like, "I like standing right next to you. It makes me look tough." And then he walks out. Right there, it's a very well acted moment. Yeah, and honestly, I'm glad that Garfield's really gotten so much recognition for a lot of roles today. From roles like Hacksaw Ridge, We Live in Time, or even playing the most underrated Spider-Man in 2 films. Then while they're celebrating their 1 million users, Parker then gets arrested for cocaine possession with a bunch of minors who lie that they're 21, but the cops figure out they're lying and say lying only makes it worse. And then Parker realizes he's fucked. So this scene is pretty much the movie version of Parker getting his comeuppance right here. And Zuckerberg, and then he finds out then Parker calls him on the phone after he's posted bail, after he's been released, about what happened. And then Zuckerberg realizes Eduardo was right. He should have never trusted Sean Parker to begin with. Eduardo was even right not to like Sean being around them or being near their website. Sean Parker even tries to blame Eduardo for something that was his own fault. Zuckerberg has just about had it with Sean at this rate, and he tells him to go home and pretty much cuts ties with him. Yeah, I know, Sean's kind of still around Facebook, but I know technically he just got asked to step down from co-CEO, but still. And throughout the film, the twins claim that Zuckerberg stole their idea. Sovereign claims that sure Facebook were unfairly diluted when the company is incorporated, and Marilyn Depley, the junior lawyer from the defense, who's played by Rashida Jones, This is the very last scene. The last scene, Marilyn informs Zuckerberg that they're going to settle with Zabrin because of sordid details of Facebook's founding, and Zuckerberg's bilious attitude, is going to make him unsympathetic to the jury. So after everyone goes home, Mark Zuckerberg kind of admits that he was drunk, angry with the whole opening scene, the zoo animals or farm animals. Zuckerberg, though, stays in the courtroom for a little bit. For one last thing, he tries to send a Facebook friend request to Erica and repeatedly refreshes the page. For a friend request that's likely that he's not going to reach at all. And the closing text reveals that both cases got settled. Right there, the Winklevoss twins got $65 million in their lawsuit, and they raced in the Olympics, and they became at the Beijing Olympics and reached 6th place for rowing. Eduardo, his lawsuit got settled, and he got reinstated as He got reinstated, and Zuckerberg became the world's youngest billionaire. But that's how The Social Network ends. That's how this version of the story, formed from the vision of David Fincher, all ends. Like, Mark succeeded in creating Facebook. Facebook became the platform it is today, that we're all familiar with today. Became the world's youngest billionaire, but Mark has lost his best friend, his hero, and everyone else. But this version of him, anyways, realized the consequences of his actions. This portrayal of him did. The twins got their $65 million settlement. Eduardo got an unknown settlement and was restored as co-founder. Even one of the last shots of Zuckerberg feels like one of the last shots of Zuckerberg actually does feel like the final shot of Michael Corleone at the end of Godfather 2, which also is cool because David Fincher actually considers Godfather 2 to be one of his favorite movies of all time. Now, would The Social Network have any bad qualities? Yes, it would. It's a good movie, but I would have some problems with the movie. The Sean Parker character is definitely very unlikable. Timberlake gives a good performance as him, but he's pretty much the closest character portrayed as an outright villain because of how much of an asshole he is. I'm surprised Mark Zuckerberg actually trusted this guy with their website. These two did not know this guy. Eduardo was right not to trust this guy. You barely know this guy. This guy's clearly just after your website because it's successful. And I think it's mentioned that he had a drug charge and his Napster website failed. So why would you trust this guy? At all. And it ends up proving right when he ends up getting arrested at the end because he did coke with minors. And the coke arrest actually did happen in real life. So I don't know why you really should have not trusted this guy with their website. I mean, yeah, removing the Facebook I could agree with him on because the doesn't really make it, putting a the in the title isn't really all that popular, so if you're going to make something a little more popular, you have to kind of remove the from the title. That's kind of one thing. And plus, literally just starts crashing at their house. But yeah, so makes really no sense. And of course, I feel like the movie could have been a bit longer. This movie's only 120 minutes. I feel like some things could have been explored a little more. I kind of wish we saw the end of the lawsuits. I feel like a lot of stuff wasn't really explored all that well. But that's about it, because I still have The Social Network, and it was nice to see David Fincher direct a non-crime thriller in his career. So in the end, guys, I would totally watch it by The Social Network for a collection, because it is easily a great film that explores how Facebook got created, the lawsuits that formed, as well, and also some really great performances. Anyways, guys, that's it for my view of The Social Network, and if you're any hungry to rate The Social Network, here's how I'm going to rate this movie. So overall, if you want to see how Facebook formed and the lawsuits that came with it at the hands of David Fincher, then I would totally watch it by The Social Network for your David Fincher collection, no doubt. And if you're any hungry to rate The Social Network, I'm going to give The Social Network a 9 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up The Social Network. So, what's going to be the next episode for David Fincher month? Well, our next episode is going to be a first-time watch from 2002. Panic Room. I have not seen Panic Room yet, so it's going to be a first-time watch, but yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to watch that movie. Yep. Alright. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this episode. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.